It started with a lip gloss. Pastor Samson was a well-known pastor in the town of Elere, but unlike other pastors, he was different. Different not in the way he preached, not in the way he prayed, but in the way he dressed. Every Sunday, he walked into Fire of Grace Ministries adorned in full feminine attire, cherry red lip gloss glistening on his lips, a long, wavy black wig with soft brown highlights, flowing gowns tailored like evening dresses, flared at the sleeves and cinched at the waist. Sometimes he wore pink lace, other times velvet purple with rhinestones. He even once wore a bridal dress while preaching about being the bride of Christ. Red heels, 6 inches tall, clicked against the church floor as he moved gracefully through the sanctuary. His nails were painted, his lashes curled, his earrings sparkled under the lights. Phones always came out. The choir paused. The ushers whispered, but no one dared speak aloud, because this was not the first time. For 6 months, Pastor Samson had dressed like a woman. At first, it was subtle, lip balm, then eyeliner. Then came the accessories, bangles, lace gloves, then the gowns, then the heels, and strangely, the church grew. People called him the Divine Diva. Social media dubbed him Pastor Barbie. Every Sunday, new faces filled the pews, not because of the message, but because of the mystery. The elders tried to intervene. This is not what the Bible meant by being clothed in righteousness, Elder Dyke once said. But Pastor Samson only smiled and replied, "Did Jesus not say, 'Come as you are'? If you want a prophet in camel skin, go to the wilderness. But if you want to meet God in 2025, meet him in color." And behind the foundation, behind the curls and glossy lips, there was a story, a secret. You see, Pastor Samson was not always like this. Before gowns came, before wigs came, before lip gloss shone on his mouth like red morning sun, Pastor Samson was a very different man. He was fire, pure fire. He used to preach fire. He wore long black coats, carried a real Bible, not a tablet, called out sin like thunder. But he didn't start off as a flamboyant pastor. He was born into a very different home. His father was a pastor, not just any pastor, but one of the most respected in the region. A man known for his humility, his miracles, his spiritual discipline. People came from neighboring towns to attend his revivals. He built the Fire of Grace Ministries from scratch, with nothing but a wooden bench and a Bible. But he had one problem: his wife. Her name was Mama Ruth. She was Samson's mother. She was nothing like a pastor's wife. She never went to church. She dressed like a woman, half her age, tight skirts, low-cut tops, painted nails, heavy makeup. She wore heels to the market and smoked behind their compound. People always whispered, "How can a man of God marry such a woman?" But Pastor Elijah, Samson's father, always replied with the same thing: "She is my cross, and a man does not throw away his cross." But there was more to the story. What no one knew was that behind the booming success of Pastor Elijah's ministry, behind the power in his sermons and the growth of the congregation, was his wife. She was the source. No one understood how a man with such spiritual weight could tolerate a woman who didn't even pretend to be saved. But only Pastor Elijah knew the secret. Everything he had came from her. Some nights, Samson would hear them talking behind closed doors. Strange chants, whispers, prayers that didn't sound like church prayers. Still, as a boy, Samson loved the church. He prayed hard, read his Bible like a soldier, and followed his father everywhere. The town believed he would be the one to take over when the time came, and he did. When Pastor Elijah died, the whole town shook. Women cried loud, men wiped their eyes, children held their mothers' wrappers and asked, "Is Pastor not coming back?" For many days, the church was full of tears. People brought food, people brought chairs, people brought long stories of how Pastor Elijah prayed for them. Samson stood beside the coffin like a tree standing in strong rain. He did not cry loudly, but his heart cried inside him like a drum beaten in the night. After the burial, the elders came. They held his hands. They said, "You will lead us now, Samson. Your father's fire is inside you." And Samson agreed. He stepped up. He carried the Bible with both hands. He preached with passion. His voice rose and fell like big waves. People clapped. People nodded. People said, "Yes, this is Pastor Elijah's son. He's just like his father." The church grew again. Chairs filled up. Children danced during praise. Mamas waved their handkerchiefs in the air. But one evening, when the sun was tired and the wind was soft, his mother called him. Her voice was smooth, like oil moving on glass. "Samson," she said, "sit down." He sat. She folded her hands. Her eyes looked deep, like she was looking into a pot of secrets. "Samson," she said again, "if you want this church to stay alive, you must listen to me." Samson frowned. "Mother, I follow God." She smiled slowly, like someone who already knew something he did not. "That is what your father said at first," she whispered, until the benches became empty. Samson's heart jumped. He stood up. He shook his head. "No, mother. God is enough." She leaned back in her chair and did not answer. She only watched him walk away. Her eyes followed him like a shadow that does not blink. But after that night, things changed. Seats began to empty. First, the back rows, then the middle, then the front ones. The offering bowl felt lighter every Sunday, like someone removed stones inside it. People whispered, "His father had power. This one does not. Maybe God did not call him." Every word stabbed Samson like a thorn entering skin. He prayed. He prayed until his knees hurt. He fasted until his stomach cried. He walked barefoot inside the church at night, praying from chair to chair. His tears dropped on the floor like small rain. But nothing changed. Nothing grew. Nothing moved. He became weak. He became quiet. He became confused. One night, he fell on the altar. He cried like a child who lost something important. His voice cracked. His chest shook. Finally, when he could not take it anymore, he went back to her. He knocked on her door softly. "Mother," he whispered. She opened the door slowly, like she was expecting him. Her eyes did not look surprised. She stepped back and let him enter. Samson stood in the middle of the room. He looked tired, lost, empty. "Mother," he said softly, "tell me, what must I do?" She walked close to him. She touched his shoulder gently. She looked into his eyes like she was reading a book. "First," she said, her voice calm, "you must begin to dress like a woman." Samson jumped back as if fire touched him. "What?" he shouted. "No, I am a man." She did not shout. She did not move. She just breathed one long breath. Then she said, "Then let your father's church die. Let the benches stay empty. Let the doors close. Let all his work turn to sand." Her voice was soft, but it carried danger, like a quiet snake waiting in grass. Samson felt something heavy in his chest. He sat down slowly. His heart beat hard. That night, he lay on the church floor. His tears soaked the tiles. He remembered his father's words. Some crosses are not to be cast away. Samson touched his chest. He whispered to the dark, "Father, what cross is this?" The moon shone through the window. soft and cold. He cried until sleep carried him away. By morning, he stood up. His eyes were red. His voice was small. He went to his mother's room. He opened his mouth and whispered, "I am ready." And that was how it began. That was how the dressing started. That was how the long road of collars, gowns, heels, wigs, and lip gloss entered the life of a pastor who once carried only fire. The next Sunday, after Samson said, "I am ready," the whole church saw a new world walk through their door. He entered wearing a gown with wide sleeves that danced like bird wings. The cloth was bright yellow, shining like morning sun on a bucket of water. His heels were tall, so tall they looked like small towers. His wig was long and soft, flowing down his back like a dark waterfall. The church gasped like one giant mouth opening. People stared. People blinked. People whispered. One woman held her chin. "This is serious," she murmured. A young boy pulled his father's shirt. "Daddy, Pastor looks like Auntie Bola today." The father tapped his hand quickly. Quiet. But even though their eyes were full of shock, their legs did not leave the church. None of them knew why. It was as if something was tying them down to the church. Because they stayed. They watched. They listened. And the strange thing began. Week after week, he came again. One Sunday, he wore a gown of bright blue. The sleeves reached the floor like two rivers. His wig that day was curly, bouncing with every step. His heels were purple, shiny like polished stones. Another Sunday, he wore a gown with beads that clicked gently when he moved. His earrings were long like tiny swords. His nails were painted a sweet pink that sparkled when he lifted his Bible. People were shocked, but they kept coming. They never even thought of leaving. They came early. They sat fast. Some even argued for front seats. By the third Sunday, something new appeared outside the gate. A bus, then another bus, then another one. People stepped out carrying bags, water, fans, small snacks. They came from other towns. They came from far places. They wanted to see the pastor who dressed like a woman. They wanted to see with their own eyes. Some said softly, "He is strange." Others whispered, "No, no, he is deep." A few smiled and said, "He is a mystery, a colorful mystery." Inside the church, chairs filled up like buckets under heavy rain. People even stood outside to listen. The choir sang louder. The ushers moved fast. The offering baskets became heavier. The church grew bigger than it had ever been. People came for the sight. People came for the story. People came for the thrill. But not everyone came to worship God. Some came to laugh. Some came to record videos. Some came to post on social media. Come and see Pastor Barbie. And yet, every Sunday, Samson stood on the altar, glowing in colors, shining in makeup, wrapped in silk, lace, velvet, but his heart was not shining. Inside him, a storm was growing, a storm that sat in his chest like a heavy stone, a storm that followed him home like a shadow with long fingers. He smiled on the altar, but inside him, something shook, because every time he wore a gown, every time he fixed lashes, every time he painted his lips red, he remembered the voice that started it all, the soft, cold, dangerous voice of the woman in his house, his mother. Behind the bold eyeliner and flowing robes, another storm was brewing. It started with marriage. The first woman Pastor Samson brought home was Amaka. She was gentle, calm, a prayerful teacher who had once testified during service and caught his attention. It was a warm Sunday. The church was full. Voices rose like soft wind. Hands lifted in worship. Then a young woman walked to the front to give testimony. She wore a simple gown. Her scarf was tied neatly. Her eyes were calm, like quiet water. "My name is Amaka," she said softly. Her voice was gentle, the kind that felt like morning breeze touching skin. "I just want to thank God for saving me from sickness." She prayed slowly. She spoke with grace. She smiled with kindness. Pastor Samson stood on the altar, watching her. For the first time in many months, his heart did not feel heavy. It felt like a lantern being lit inside him. After service, he found her outside under the mango tree. She stood alone, pressing her Bible to her chest. He walked gently to her. "Peace be with you," he said. She bowed her head. "And with you too, Pastor." Her voice carried something warm, something quiet, something good. He asked, "Where do you live?" She answered softly. They talked small. They walked small. She didn't mind the way he dressed. She believed that there was a deeper calling behind it all. But the problem wasn't Amaka. It was Samson's mother, because by evening, he took her home. He wanted his mother to see her. When the door opened, Mama Ruth looked up from her chair. She looked at Amaka once, just once, from her head to her feet. Then she hissed quietly and said, "She is not the one. Her spirit is too quiet." Samson frowned. "Mother, she is good. She is gentle. She prays." His mother looked at him with eyes that held too many secrets. "I said no," she replied softly. "And you know what happens when I say no." Her voice was calm, but it carried coldness like Hamatan wind. Samson felt fear crawl up his neck, but he stood by Amaka. He held her hand. He took her inside. Days turned to weeks. Weeks turned to months. Amaka became his wife. Then the news came. She was pregnant. Samson's heart jumped like a drumbeat. He smiled when she was not looking. He bought tiny baby clothes, a small cap, a small shirt, tiny socks. He hid them in the wardrobe behind his gowns. He dreamed of holding his child. He dreamed of praying with his child. He dreamed of changing the story of his family. But one afternoon, Mama Ruth entered the room. She opened the wardrobe quietly. She saw the clothes. She touched them with the tip of her fingers. When Samson walked in, she turned to him. Her voice was low, too low, dangerously low. "You must not let her give birth," she said. "It is not yet time." Samson froze. His mouth became dry. His hands trembled. "Mother, no," he whispered. "She is my wife. This is my child." Mama Ruth stepped closer. Her eyes were sharp like a needle. "If you want the church to live," she said, "obey." The room felt cold. Samson felt his heart breaking into pieces like glass, falling on stone. He begged. He cried. He knelt. He shook. But she did not move. She did not soften. Her voice stayed hard. "Do it." By evening, the deed was done. He gave her a medicine that will remove the pregnancy. The light in Amaka's eyes dimmed. Her hands trembled when she touched her stomach. She cried for many nights. She held her belly and whispered, "Why? Why me?" She asked Samson again and again, "What happened? Why did you agree? Why did you allow this?" Samson stood near the window each time, his face turned away, his heart sinking deeper than a stone in water. He could not answer. He could not speak. He could not tell her the truth. So he stayed silent. And his silence hurt more than words. And Amaka cried until her tears became dry like dust on old wood. A year later, she got pregnant again. This time he tried to hide it. But secrets don't stay hidden in spiritual houses. His mother found out. And again, the verdict was the same. It is not yet time. Again, the child was taken. Amaka became distant. She started spending more time away from home, seeking answers from God in private prayer houses. She didn't know what was wrong, only that darkness was covering something she couldn't name. Then came the third pregnancy, and Samson snapped. "I will not do it again," he said. "This child will live." His mother's eyes narrowed. "Then prepare to bury your ministry." Samson felt the world stab him, but he did not step back. He did not kneel. He did not cry. He did not shake. For the first time in many years, he looked her straight in the eyes and said nothing. Then he turned around and walked out. His footsteps were steady, strong, unbroken, like a drum beat announcing the beginning of a great war. Night came like a heavy cloth falling over the whole town. The moon was thin, the wind was slow, and Samson's heart beat fast, like a drum calling people to war. He ran to the elders' houses one by one. He knocked on doors. He said, "Please come. Please, we must speak tonight." Soon, the town hall lamps were lit. The benches were arranged. Men sat wide-eyed, shoulders stiff like wooden poles. Women leaned forward, wrappers tied tight, eyes bright with worry. Samson stood in front of them. His clothes were simple. His face looked older than the morning. His hands shook a little. He took a deep breath. Then he opened his mouth, and he told them everything. He told them about his father, Pastor Elijah, how the fire people saw on the altar was not only prayer, but something deeper, something darker, something whispered in the night. He told them about his mother, her chants, her secrets, her cold warnings, her control. He confessed the truth about the dresses, how he never wanted to wear them, how he did it to save the church, how he obeyed because fear wrapped around him like a rope. He told them about Amaka's pregnancies, how joy came 3 times, how sorrow swallowed all 3, how he carried the guilt like a stone inside his chest. And he told them about the crowd, how the people came, not because of the message, not because of truth, but because of the mystery made by his mother. The room shook with silence. Then gasps broke out, loud gasps, sharp gasps, like cold hands touching warm skin. One elder covered his face with both hands. Another elder let tears roll down his cheeks, like drops falling from a leaking roof. Women held their mouths. Some cried softly. Some rocked back and forth. Elder Dyke stood up slowly. His voice cracked like dry wood. "Your mother used darkness to build this house," he whispered. "This is not holy ground. This is a house built on shadow." Samson bowed his head. He felt shame burn inside him like a small fire, but he let it burn. He had spoken the truth, and truth never hides forever. That night, the elders did not dismiss him. They did not tell him to go home. They did not close the hall. Instead, they stood together, held their sticks, and said one thing: "We must act tonight." And the night opened its eyes. Word spread like dry grass catching fire. The whole town gathered quickly, men, women, children with sleepy eyes. They held lanterns. They held sticks. They held stones. The moonlight touched their faces, and their shadows stretched long behind them. They walked as one body, one voice, one anger. They headed straight to Mama Ruth's house. She stood in the doorway when they arrived, as if she had been waiting all evening, her arms folded, her eyes calm, her lips forming a small, cold smile. The first stone flew. It hit her arm. She did not wince. The second stone hit her shoulder. She only stepped back one small step. People shouted. their voices sharp like broken glass. Witch, you lied to us. You destroyed lives. You killed innocents. Some women held their chests crying. Some men raised their sticks high. Children hid behind their mothers' wrappers. Mama Ruth finally fell to the ground. Blood streaked her forehead. Dust covered her gown. But her voice came out strong, strong like thunder rolling from a far mountain. I am not his real mother, she spat. I found him as a baby. His real parents died. His father was a herbalist. His mother was barren. I raised him. I made him. I gave his father power. I built this church. The crowd froze. Everything stopped. Even the wind held its breath. Her words fell heavy, like stones thrown into a deep well. People stared, eyes wide, mouths trembling. The truth did not whisper. It roared. Anger boiled in the hearts of the young men. They stepped forward. They wanted to burn the house. They wanted to pull her out. They wanted to break everything. Before things got out of control, the elders stepped in. The youths were boiling, ready to burn her alive, but wisdom prevailed. She was banished. That night, no goodbyes, no second chances. She left the town barefoot. Her wigs fell, her clothes torn, her bags dragged on sand. Samson watched from the church balcony and didn't shed a tear. From that Sunday, everything changed. He stopped wearing gowns, stopped painting his nails. He returned to the altar in a plain black suit. No lace, no glitter, just the Bible, just the word. And the people came, not for spectacle, but for healing. A year later, Amaka gave birth to a baby boy. The church celebrated with 7 days of praise. And on the 8th day, during dedication, Pastor Samson held his son high and said, "This is the first fruit not born from manipulation, but from mercy. This house shall never walk in shadows again." The crowd wept. The town rejoiced. And for the first time in decades, Fire of Grace truly lived up to its name. Moral: a church built on secrets will one day collapse under truth. No legacy is worth your soul. And behind every strange instruction lies a test of your freedom. Some battles are not won with silence, but with confession, courage, and clean hands. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, share with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more African folk tales just like this one. Thank you.